Welcome to the Kristi Jones Show, your go-to space for thriving in business and life. I'm Kristi, and after decades in the multifamily housing industry, a business owner, and now speaker and coach, I help ambitious professionals step into bold leadership, ditch the self-doubt, and have more of what they want, more success and more fulfillment. If you're ready to flourish and thrive, you are in the right place, my friend. Welcome back to the podcast. Really excited that we are getting this time together today. As you know, I go into all the things on the podcast that are going to help you thrive in business and in life. And today's topic is actually going to apply to both of those things. You're going to be able to, I know this is going to resonate with you because this is actually a conversation that I've been having with many colleagues, and both men and women. And also, I see this come up frequently when I'm working with clients. I want to talk about the courage to let people be wrong about you. Oh, I know that probably doesn't feel really good, does it? When I say those words, you're like, oh, I want approval. I want acceptance. I don't want people to, I'm not okay with them being wrong about me and who I am or what I'm doing. All the more reason that you need to stick with me through this entire podcast episode. I'm breaking this up into two parts. So today, I'm going to talk about really the problem that we step into. And by the end of it, I'll be pointing the direction as to what the solution is. So part two, the next episode, is going to continue the conversation and then give you more in-depth solutions of how to handle this, how to be okay and have the courage to let people be wrong about you. Have you ever talked yourself out of something that you wanted because of what someone else thought? Think about that for a minute. Have you ever found yourself in that situation, or are you in that right now? I have learned that every time that I've grown, I've changed, I've expanded, taken a risk, or stepped into a brand new season, I have noticed that there is always somebody that has an opinion about it. And if I had waited for that universal approval or their buy-in, I would still be standing in the exact same place. I want to talk about why other people's opinions can hold so much power in your life and in your business. We're going to talk about why that is and how to move through that. I think right now, in a lot, like I mentioned, in a lot of conversations that I'm having with colleagues, people in the industry, and then also with my clients, is I'm noticing that we need to have this conversation. If you want to step into your next season, your bigger, bolder life, that next level for yourself, whether it's in business or whether that's in your personal life, you've got to learn to be okay with this. You've got to have the courage to let people be wrong about you. And I know that feels like so unnatural at times. I will say too, before I jump into my first talking point, I want to also point out that, yeah, this goes on for men and women, both. And as high achievers, we are so susceptible to this because we want to make sure we're moving in a direction that kind of where everyone, we got the buy-in, we got everyone behind us type of thing. And that's really what you find out, I think, as you go along in life and in business, is that that's just not possible. And it's not realistic either. And so we need to better understand, like, why do we even strive for that? Why are we even shooting for that goal? What's behind that? I will say that men don't struggle, in my experience, that men don't struggle with this as much as women that I talk with. That's just been in my experience of what I've noticed. And I think that, there's a lot of reasoning probably behind that, but I think, women can kind of be brought up with more people-pleasing tendencies, and wanting, to to be accepted and to be liked and to be nice and get along, and all the little things that we're told, as we grow up. And that happens to young men as well. But I'm just saying that in my experience, I see this show up heavy with females and kind of sprinkled in a little bit with the men. So that's just been my experience. So we definitely could learn from our male counterparts a little bit on how they're able to be okay with people being wrong about them. Like I love that there's that separation there that they can like they have that filter and it just seems to come a tad more natural to them. So before I jump into the first point, I also want to say that this has been on my mind a lot lately because of a season that I'm in and a big transition. If you've been following along on the podcast or on my social, you know that I'm in a big season of relocating. And, we've had our home for 27 years in Oklahoma, and we've also lived in San Diego and Oklahoma. We've done that for the last 10 years. But we've made the decision to sell our long-term, the dream home that we built, that we designed, that over the years we crafted together, and instead make the move to Florida. So we'll be doing Florida and San Diego. And that was not a decision that we took lightly whatsoever, but we came to that decision and all the moving parts of that. There's a lot to all of that. And so all the steps, all the things, we got the house on the market, um, contract accepted, so on and so forth. So off to the races we go. But that also myself going through not only that, but there's a lot of other things behind the scenes that I've experienced lately that has me thinking about this topic. And so that on top of talking to colleagues and then coaching clients and seeing this creep up in people's lives and in their businesses, I'm like, I've got to talk about this on the podcast because I know that this is conversation is really going to help you move forward through this of having the courage to let people be wrong about you. So the first point I want to make is people are going to create their own story about you or your situation. They're going to create their own story anyways, regardless. Regardless. So know that ahead of time. People will create their own story, their own version anyways. People see you through their own lens. So the way I explain it when I'm working with a client is people put on glasses and that lens that they're looking through, that's created through, we all wear them, right? It's created through so many things. And especially if you're not a very self-aware, you don't even know you're doing this. But someone like you that listens to me, and you follow the information that I share, you're a very self-aware individual, or you're working your way, to becoming more self-aware. And so you know that you see things through a lens, and that's why you have to be thoughtful in the stories that you create about what when you're evaluating something or looking at something, right? Because we all see people and situations through our own lens. So know that people are doing that. Like they're looking, regardless of what you say, regardless of what you do, and regardless of your actions, they're still seeing it through their lens. And what that brings is also they're seeing it with their experiences, with their insecurities, with their fears, with their beliefs. So they are creating, regardless of what you present, what you say, they're creating their own story about it. You can't control someone else's interpretation. And I think that's why I want to talk about that first. And in the very beginning of this message is to understand that you cannot control their interpretation of you, of your decisions, of your actions. You can't control that. And you don't want to have to put yourself in that position to try to control that. You'll wear yourself smack out. You can't control their interpretation. People don't always see the world as it is, Remember this. Remember this. This is a good quote to remember. People don't see the world as it is, they see it as they are. They're looking through their own lens. They're interpreting it through their own experiences, through their own insecurities, through their own beliefs, through their own value system. You cannot control their interpretation. So remember, always like know that as you are moving through a season or stepping into a new season, making some decisions, taking a risk, starting the business, deciding if you are going to start the business. Are you going to go out and do the thing or not? Are you wanting to make sure everybody sees it your way and you have their buy-in? Or if you're getting resistance, are you okay and just saying, let them be wrong about me? Are you okay with that? People are going to create their story regardless of what you say, what you do. Know that. And I'm not saying this like that, that's not necessarily a negative. That's just reality. They are creating their story based on seeing it through their lens, their experiences, insecurities, beliefs, all the things that I just said. So you can't control their interpretation. People don't see the world as it is, they see it as they are. And it's not your job, per se, to get them to see it the way you are. They're seeing things the way they are. That's why so many times I've gotten to a place in life where I just don't take a lot personal. I really don't. Even if someone's trying to get a jab in at me, and they wanted me to take it personal, I just don't because it is such a reflection of them. And that's just where they are right now. And I don't overjudge them. I'm not like being harsh. That's just where they're at. And I feel bad at times because that's a tough place to be. That's got to be a tough place to be when you're just so frustrated with your own situation, your own life, or whatever that person's grappling with them within themselves, that they have that need to, come at you or to say something or to gossip about you or to, the business that you're wanting to start, they're going to talk crap about it, whatever it is, right? But that is just a reflection of them. And I've understood that for a lot of years, actually. A lot of years. I have several things, and this was being my teenage years. There was something very transformative that happened for me I was almost 16 years old. And then there was the story of that, and I've never publicly talked about that story. It's not one that I would, but there was something very big that took place in my life. And there was the facts of what happened and me trying to state the facts. And then there was the stories that everyone built around it in small town USA. And I learned quickly that people are going to create their own story anyways. It didn't happen right away. It took years for me to then have some separation and realize that I didn't need them to believe me. I didn't need them to agree with me. I was okay letting them be wrong about me. And it probably took decades before I'm guessing that some of the individuals were able to look back and go, "Oh, wow. Yeah, that probably wasn't true." The assumptions that we were making. Anyways, I think sometimes we go through hard things. Iron sharpens iron, that's for sure. And I think sometimes we go through hard things to learn very important lessons that serve us in our life for the rest of our life. And that was a really big challenge that I got just hit with at what I consider I was a girl, that was a hard one to work through. But I learned the benefit is so that I learned so much going through that. And I learned it early in life. And it kind of set the stage for all the other times then. I would find myself in a situation where there was judgment or there were a lot of opinions about what I was deciding to do or um, a choice I was making. And I knew that I had to silence those opinions and it was okay. I had enough courage, really, from going through something really challenging at 15, 16 years old, that it gave me so much courage, strength, resolve to handle those moments later in life. So things that came up in my 20s, 30s, 40s, and even now in my 50s, it's so much easier. So if you are faced with a really challenging thing or a really hard thing, know that whatever it is you're learning from that, it is going to serve you for all the days forward if you are willing to pay attention and say, what can I learn from this? What is this here to teach me? What is this here to teach me? That situation definitely taught me to have the courage to let people be wrong about me. Second point I want to bring up is the need to be understood. That is exhausting. The need to be understood. Have you ever been in a business meeting at work and you're trying to present something and you're wanting to be understood and you want them to see your viewpoint on it and you're just up against a wall. So you keep explaining yourself. You keep explaining yourself. You're defending the decision. It's exhausting. It is absolutely exhausting. Over explaining yourself, defending yourself, justifying decisions, making decisions in your life, you're in the driver's seat of your life. For me, and this is for me, that I believe that I like co-create. I look to God for all the guidance and the wisdom, but I feel like He gives me that flexibility to kind of co-create, gives me free will to make some choices. But I seek His guidance, I seek His counsel. I don't have to justify my decisions to another person. If me and God are good with it and He knows my heart and He understands, I'm trying to be on the same page, making sure that I'm listening to that still small voice inside. If I'm good with that, then I'm good. I don't need anybody else's buy-in. I don't have to justify my decision. And I on this note, I also want to say constantly managing people's perceptions of you, of your decisions, of where you want to take your business or your career or your life for that matter, that's plain exhausting. You're going to wear yourself out. You don't have to manage your perceptions. You simply just have to be. Knowing that we're going to make some decisions and we're going to go, yes, that got me the result I was hoping for, or this went in the right direction. And there's things we're going to do and say that are going to not, we're going to go, ooh, that is not the result I was shooting for. That did not work out the way I wanted it to, or the way I was hoping for. That's just life. You can't, but to worry about like how others perceive that, that's what I'm talking about. Like to get caught in that trap, that's such a dangerous zone to hang out in. The more that you try to control what people think of you, the less energy you are going to have to build the life that you actually want. I have been sharing about this on my social media in different posts and reels and whatnot. And this has kind of been the central theme is that the more you're trying to manage the audience per se, or manage people's perceptions of your choices, decisions, what you're choosing to do, what you're wanting to create for your life or for your family. It might just be the way that that the way that you're choosing to raise you and your husband are choosing to raise your children, the value system, the things that you've prioritized. You might have other friends, family members, like having a lot of opinions about that. And you're feeling like you have to defend yourself or justify your decisions, and you absolutely do not. Again, I go back to my belief is, I pray and ask God for when I'm making any decision, I pray about it. And so I would encourage you to do the same. Whatever that source, if you pray to God, ask the universe for guidance, whatever language, I'm not concerned about the language that you use, but I would so encourage you to reach out and open your heart for guidance and wisdom from your creator. It has served me. It's been my rock. I mean, honestly, it really has. And it's really helped me not care about managing perceptions because the only one I'm really worried about is being true to myself, true to what I stand for, and living my life in a way that I feel that is pleasing to God. And if I'm constantly trying to justify decisions and defend myself and manage other people's perceptions of me, that is crazy town thinking. So remember that the more you try to control what everyone thinks, the less energy that you have to build the life that you really want to experience. You're going to just, it's kind of like, do you ever notice sometimes where maybe physically you haven't done a lot, but you're just emotionally drained at the end of the day, right? You're just worn out. If you pause and think about it, if you haven't done a lot of physical exertion, but you're just, oh, you're so depleted at the end of the day and just like, not like a healthy way, like you're just drained, absolutely drained. If you think about what have you been thinking about all day? What have you been ruminating about? Are you in this thing where you're feeling maybe you have something going on and you're in that place of where you feel like you're having to explain yourself and you feel like you're being misunderstood and you're trying to get whomever it is, whether it's at work, at home, friend, family, whoever, and you're trying to get them to understand your decisions and you're defending yourself and you're trying to like again, control the perceptions. That's why you're exhausted. That's why you're depleted. So you got to step away from that. You have to step away from that. Number three is that people pleasing is truly fear, but it's wearing a different disguise. People pleasing is really rooted in fear. I call that it's just putting on a different costume. When you're people pleasing, and this is where when I talked about men and women, when I talk to more of women colleagues and when I'm coaching women more, this comes up more. But it also comes up for the men too, but more so with my women friends and colleagues and all of that. But people pleasing a lot of times is fear of rejection, you fear of disappointing people, fear of being criticized. That's a big one. Some people just don't handle criticism well, or the fear of being misunderstood. I want to really challenge you right here on this one, on this point. Point number three, people pleasing. It is often that is just a fear-based thing. It's wearing a different costume. It's disguised in a different way, but it's fear. Your fear of rejection, that they're not going to like me. They may not like you. I run into that. I don't think we're made for everybody, first of all. So I want to normalize that. There's different energies that sometimes you just don't resonate with someone else. Doesn't make you good and them bad, and it doesn't make them good and you bad. It- so we're not meant for everybody. So first, I mean, that's a no-brainer. Fear of rejection. We're not made for everybody. Not everybody's going to like you. Not everybody likes me. Maybe they like you, but they don't want to hang out with you all the time. You're just not like your energies don't match. I run into that as well. I actually think it's a blessing because if we're not matched, if we aren't like if we aren't really powerful when we come together and it's like this constant friction, I don't want to be, if I'm triggering a person just by me breathing, I don't want to have to, I mean, they got to work through that. That's not my deal. And when that happens to me, if I'm with someone and I'm like, gosh, their energy is just off, they're a little negative, they're whatever, and that kind of comes up. I look at myself. I don't judge them. I'm like, that's interesting. I wonder, I get curious about it. What is that showing me right now? So I get curious about it. The fear of disappointing people. Okay, we're going to disappoint people. So that's just a fact. I mean, trust me, I've disappointed people. You've disappointed people. And life goes on and we do our best and, course correct when we need to, but you're going to disappoint some people because you're going to do the things that you feel called to do. I am living my life in a way that I feel called to do. Does that disappoint some people? It does. Of course, I mean, it does. But I can't fall in the people pleasing trap to make sure that everybody around me is just so happy and loves and in agreement with everything that I'm doing when what all that matters is that me and God are on the same page. In my opinion, me and God, if we're good, like that's my number one source of am I going in the right direction? Is this, something I need to do? What I need to, when you're trying to make it, when you're in decision mode, right? Some people are going to be disappointed with the decisions you make. Some people are going to like them. Some people aren't even going to care. Most people aren't going to care. They just don't have the energy. They've got plenty going on in their own lives that they're like neutral about it. Fear of criticism, that's when people pleasing shows up. When again, you want people to agree with you. And a lot of this is ego centered. It's our ego that wants people to not be critical of us. And so that's where we have to really separate and be aware of that, separate ourselves from ego. We all have it. It's part of being human, but we don't want to be criticized. And, I'm going to tell you, I've been through some harsh discussions. I've had some harsh things said my way from people that are, I would say, in the work realm that you're not, it's more work conversation. Um, and again, this goes back to early years. Don't, I call it thick skin, but I realized early on that it doesn't, someone can say absolutely anything that they want to me, that it's not going to kill me, that I'm not going to die because of harsh words that are said to me. I might make some adjustments, obviously, but I am not fearful of criticism. And a lot of times, criticism, especially, I'll branch off onto this in the workplace. Um, a lot of times, criticism is meant for like constructive criticism. I do think that criticism is needed because I think that constructive criticism is like very valuable. But you not chasing your dreams, going after your goals, building the life that you want out of fear of criticism of from others that they're not going to think that you're doing what you should be doing with your life or the way that you're running your business and the way you should be running your business. Like that's what I'm talking about here on this podcast episode. And the people pleasing is going to just keep you stuck. And that fear of being misunderstood, again, that goes right back to fear-based. the fear of being misunderstood. We're all going to be misunderstood sometimes. I mean, we just are. You misunderstand people. There's been times you can probably think of the time passes and you go, oh, wow, I didn't see that. I see that differently now. And I didn't see it that way then. I know I've done that. So I want to really challenge you to just, I want to challenge you in a loving way, but to look at yourself on people pleasing and start to recognize if you have that working too heavy in your life. You know, you want everyone to like you want everyone to think you're a good person, and that's just ego driven because you are a good person. I mean, the majority of the people are good people. They're not like, evil murder people. There's a small percentage of that, but I'm talking about the majority of the people that you interact with. So examine yourself over, let's say over the next couple of weeks until you hear my next part two of this podcast, and really examine yourself of how many people pleasing tendencies do I have, and how often do those show up in the course of a day or a week. I think if you will definitely be surprised at what you notice about yourself. The last point I want to make for today's episode is, and I did a podcast, not a podcast episode, I did a social media post about this about a week or two ago, but other people's opinions are not facts. Who decided that? Like, how come there's this, like, who are the they that decided that other people's opinions, the reason that everyone gets so worked up about it, because it's a fact. No, it's their opinion. It is not a fact. Other people's opinions are not facts. They're just opinions. And opinion, that saying, I know you do, but opinions are like what? A body part that we all have. There's that saying. I'm not going to say it here on the podcast. Everybody's got an opinion. It doesn't mean it's fact. So understand the difference between opinions and truths. Even I'm gonna do a little detour here, just on this little segment here. Even opinions that you hold about yourself. I know here I'm talking about opinions of others towards you, but opinions that you hold about yourself, most times, those are not even facts. It's not a truth. They're stories that you've told yourself over and over and that you've bought into as part of your identity, but it's not your truth. It's not the facts. It's just you've been believing a certain story about yourself. That's not a complete and utter truth about you. So consider that. Other people's opinions are often projections. I say this all the time. When people are so quick to have opinions, they are projecting what they think about themselves. It's not a fact about you. That's how they feel about themselves. They are projections. They're also opinions, a lot of times are wrapped up in assumptions. How many times have I said in many conversations before that assumptions are so dangerous? Somebody says something and you assume they mean, and you assume they wanted to, you assume, and you assume away. You are giving away your power on assumptions. No, like I encourage you to stop that today. Assumptions are tied to opinions. And a lot of times opinions, they're based on limited information. How many times we've all done this before? We have formed an opinion when we think we have all the information and you don't. And then later you learn some more information and then it changes your opinion. We've all been there. So when you are, worried about what other people think, what they're saying, keep in mind that they might think they have all the information, but they don't have the information. Something that I was telling someone a while back, a client, is if they haven't heard it from your mouth and they've heard this story like, through the grapevine, like second, third person retelling a situation, they haven't heard it from you. then they don't have firsthand information. I can't tell you how many times I have sat in conversations. Also why I never am the person that people come to tell, you know, the juicy story, the gossip or whatever, because I think I have a very tight, close, small circle of friends, and they just know I just don't. I just don't. I don't care. I nip it in the bud. I don't want to talk about somebody else. I got, there are such better things to talk about than someone else's, your opinion of another person. Like, I'm just not here for it. And I just don't care to do that. And they know, like, nobody comes to me anymore to gossip about anything or anybody. So, because they know I'm just going to be like, why are we having this conversation? I'm very straight up. Like, why are you talking to me about this? Like, I'm not going to sit here and have this conversation. It's pointless. I mean, it's literally just chitter chatter over something that is not something we need to be talking about anyways. Like, do we not have something more interesting to talk about? So you get my point. That's why my friends, they laugh. They're like, I know she doesn't want, because I'm not. I'm like, we got better things to talk about. So, anyways, realize that limited information are what people, they're forming their opinions. They don't know the whole deal. They've heard it from this person and that person, and, you know, they don't know. It takes me back to when I had first started in, if you follow along, then you know, really quickly, a single mom, government assistance, working three jobs, quit three jobs, took a job leasing apartments. That's how I got started in multifamily housing 27 plus years ago, and have had a wildly blessed, successful career in that. It's crazy that now I own apartment buildings instead of just leasing apartments in the buildings. It's wild. Definitely a God thing for sure. He's definitely had his hand on my life. But I digress. That was a little, but if you don't know and you're brand new here, I want you to know that when I first got started in the apartment business and, working and meeting a lot of new people at a large company and a lot of opinions, lots of judgment, from what I wore. Keep in mind, I was wearing the best things I had. Okay. So, um, you know, I was in a sales position, so I dressed as best I could each and every day. Um, wore a lot of the same outfits in the same week, washed them, okay? But that's just, I mean, I didn't care. I was there to win. I was there to improve my life. I was there to, I remember like telling my boss, telling her, like, what can I do to make your world better? How can I take more off of your plate? Like, I was there to improve my life. I was hungry and it showed, and I was ambitious. And there was all kinds of little chitter chatter that was going on that would eventually circle back to me. Also know if you're a talker, if you're a talker of others, then it always gets back to the person. I mean, and the best case deal is they don't care. I mean, they just kind of roll their eyes like I did back then, and I'm just like, I mean, too bad for them, but I'm full steam ahead. I was just like, whatever. I was too focused on trying to improve my life for me and my son, and everyone else. Y'all can just get popcorn and buy tickets and watch the show because your girl's gonna rise to the top. And that was my mindset. But I knew the talk that was going on, the opinions, oh, did you know this? And did you know that? Like, but I didn't care. I just didn't care. And there were things sometimes that were said, yeah, I mean, they would it would hurt. I was like, she said that about me? I mean, it just, it gets you. Like, we're human, like it hurts our feelings. But you got to remember the source. And back then, I was reminding myself that, and this has always played out true in my life and in business, is that the person doing the talking, I've yet to meet somebody that did all the criticism, the judgment, the gossiping, that made the assumptions, that, all the things that I wanted to trade places with, especially now. Life is so funny as you move on in life and you're able to look back. Um, that's it's just glaring. But even then, I knew there's the person doing the yapping and doing the talking. I wouldn't trade places with them for like nobody. If you have something going on good, you're not talking crap about other people. That's the simplest way to say it. So always remember that. If you're the one being talked about, listen, don't worry, don't sweat it. It is going to work out for you. I am living proof of that. And so just stay the course, stay focused, block out the noise. Block out the noise. Just because someone thinks something about you does not make it true. Never forget that. I'm going to end on that point. I'm going to end on that. And next week, I'm going to dive into more of the solution. So what do I do? How do I work through this? How can I overcome this? So I've shined a light on the issue today. And in the next episode, I'm going to walk you through, okay, now what do I do? How do I work through that? How do I get better at that? So I want to end with this. Let me ask you a question. I want you to journal on this, think about it, whatever process works good for you. But what would you do differently this week? What would you do differently this week if you stopped needing every single person to agree with your choices? Ooh, maybe something just came up for you. Maybe you just thought of something. Like you were like, I know exactly what I would do. Listen to that. Pay attention to that. The truth is that your next level requires thicker skin than the current level that you're at right now, that you're living. And it's not because thicker skin, it's not about becoming cold. It's not about you because you don't care. It's because you've got to stop handling other people, authority over your decisions, over your life. You got to stop asking for permission. You got to stop defending every single choice you make. You got to start trusting yourself. Trust yourself enough to move forward anyways, even though you don't feel understood, even though they're not agreeing with you. That's okay. They can be wrong about me, and I'm okay. That's where I want you to land right now. Well, my friend, I hope this episode has opened your eyes, touched your heart, and inspired you to step into the rest of your day, step into your tomorrow a little bit different. Until I talk to you guys on the next episode, which you got to come back for part 2, okay? But until then, I want you to just thrive and flourish and keep living your life the best way you know how. I'll see you next week. Friend, thanks for tuning into the podcast today. Take a moment and share this episode with that 1 or 2 people that you thought of as you were listening to today's episode. And I would love your quick review. It would mean the world to me for you to drop a review here on the podcast. And don't forget to follow and like the show so you never miss a beat on how to thrive in business and life.